Yo, what is up, guys? Cool412 the Fox here. Now, anyways, we are on to our next episode, and I want to welcome you all to another exciting edition, a Halloween Nightmare on Friday the 13th. Man, after on our last episode watching Halloween 2, I gotta admit, that was, I think, the best review I've ever done. Now, we're on to the next sequel of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I am talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Well, Freddy's Revenge, I own on DVD as it is, along with all the entire other franchises of Nightmare on Elm Street. And I own half of the Friday the 13th collection. But I would love to add Halloween to my collection someday. But yet, they're all great classics and they're all great franchises in the history of horror movies today. But I think Freddy's Revenge kind of takes the cake. But yet, this film, I have to admit, has a lot of different story put into it, but sadly our final girl is not in the sequel. But only her diary pops up, which I will get to in just a moment in the film. But, to be honest, let's see what happens on what's next on Freddy's frightening nightmare of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. The movie begins by taking us straight to Springwood and a fancy title card. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. And I gotta admit, the title card looked very classic-y, but it never got old. But yet, throughout the story, it takes us straight back to Springwood with a school bus driver, which I'm shocked enough to see Robert Englund driving a school bus, because it looked exactly like him driving. I'm like, really? Freddy popping up early? But in any other event, in the film, as the bus driver was making his routine stops, bringing all the kids to the schools, more likely to their homes. And once again, my apologies, folks. I'm a little mixed up today, but anyways. As he brought every other kid to the homes, then he drove off with, I believe, a final boy in the film named Jesse. And with all the other kids in the bus, there were only 3 left. And then one of the kids was just like, "Hey driver, you missed our stop. Please stop." And then it was revealed Freddy was driving the bus. And Jesse, along with the other kids, were all the way on the back of the bus. And I don't want to go into details what happened, so yeah. Let's just say, when they got to the side of the desert, that was where Freddy continued to play his mind games and worked his magic. But then we cut to the family downstairs, and then that's where Jesse screamed out of his nightmare. And that's where I believe his little sister asked her mother was, "Mommy, why can't Jesse wake up like all the other kids?" And that's where she said was, "Oh, he just had a nightmare." But throughout the film, the color of the story was a whole cast of characters was, I believe, amazing throughout Part 2, but on the other hand, though, there weren't much of that quotes in the film, but it was really good thus far. And then that's where we were introduced to Jesse's girlfriend, where at the school, they were doing their semesters while along gym class, while Jesse and his best friend were going at it playing t-ball, which is actually baseball. But to be honest though, I remember a lot playing the game when I was a kid. And yet, baseball was a lot different because they were playing softball on the field. But as the fight broke out between him and his best friend, knowing they were joking with each other, the coach broke it up and had him do push-ups out in the field. Then it led to where in biology, Jesse was sleeping and there was a snake that woke him up. And, my God. Even the biology teacher was just like, well, I was stunned, but he didn't get it that he was just sleeping and had a nightmare. After he put the snake away, that his friends were laughing at him, and then telling him that they're number one. But in my honest opinion, that was funny. Then we cut again to Jesse's girlfriend. Where Jesse got off the phone and was about to go see her, but the father was wondering where his son was going. That's when he said was, no, upstairs. And he wanted him to unpack everything in the house. But the dad, I was really was stunned about, but just looking at him, he looked strict. It was one tough son of a gun you didn't want to mess with. Tell me about it, but anyways. As he put everything away, that was when Jesse and his girlfriend were continuing to put everything away in the house, but that was when Jesse discovered, well, lately his girlfriend discovered, Nancy's diary, the final girl. And I had to apologize from the first Nightmare on Elm Street, because Nancy Thompson was actually played by Heather Lennycap. Because throughout the franchise, she was only in 3 films and will always be known as the OG in the original final girl throughout the franchise in my book. But anyways, when they discover the diary, it was kind of shocking to me. Or it was telling the story of what happened from the first film of A Nightmare on Elm Street. But yet, it was really cool. Then we cut to Jesse having a nightmare. Well, likely he fell asleep and was walking around the house until he saw Freddy trying to get his glove from the basement. But when he went downstairs to try to investigate, that was when Freddy was trying to come in, trying to get out of the basement. As Jesse was calling for his dad for help, that was when Freddy said, "Daddy can't help you now." And that was where Freddy, was playing mental mind games with Jesse. And I don't want to go into details on what happened, but when I said mind games, he took off his hat and scared Jesse, and Jesse screamed so loud while Freddy was laughing, and Jesse woke up from the nightmare. His parents were concerned about him, and he was okay. But throughout the film, I was kind of concerned about the story and everything else that went, and I was like, where was Freddy in all this? What's he doing? Whatever he was doing, I think he was probably looking on, waiting for the right time to strike. But anyways, throughout the film, Jesse was still at school, at gym with his best friend. They were running the track. As they were talking smack about their coach, the coach caught up to them and again had them doing push-ups out in the field. I was like, what the heck? That's the second time. What are you doing to these kids? Come on. But then, throughout the entirety of the film, that was where Jesse woke up from, looked like where his room was getting hot and everything was melting around him. But when he got down to the basement to find the same glove that Freddy wore throughout the first film. And that was where Freddy said, "Go on, Jesse. Try it on for size. Kill for me." But throughout that scene, that was where Jesse tripped over something, but when he turned around, Freddy was gone. But his glove was on the ground. But then that led to where I was getting stunned and shocked about the whole ordeal. Like, I don't know what Freddy's deal was and what he was trying to do, but from the looks of it, I think he was trying to scare Jesse enough and try to keep him up enough where, I don't know, to try to keep playing more mind games with him. But anyways, throughout the next scene, Jesse and his girlfriend were talking about the situation, on what was going on, and trying to learn more about Freddy. But then that's where we cut to the next scene where Jesse's family were relaxing and realizing it was getting hot in the house because it was burning up. And the temperature was at 97 degrees. I'm like, dang. Is it a summer in the film, or is it the fall? What's going on? And anyways, that was where one of the birds went crazy and took out the other, but like I said, I don't want to go into detail because rules are rules, but anyways, that was where the bird went crazy and flew around the place, and it got the father right in the cheek. And as they try to fight back against the crazy bird, that was when the bird, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about it. Poor thing. It had a nightmare, it looked like. And from the looks of it, I think it was burnt to a crisp. But that was where Jesse and his father, both of them did not like each other, it looked like. They were arguing like a couple of kids in the schoolyard. But anyways, that is where we then cut to the next night, where Jesse tried to fall asleep, but he had trouble sleeping. But when he went to the kitchen, a lightning bolt struck the kitchen. And he left his family's house and tried to cool off whatever it was while in the rain. And like I said, I don't want to go into details of what happened in the film because, well, rules are rules. Anyways, what happened was he went to get a drink from somewhere, and then as he was about to drink up, the coach caught him and had him run a few laps around the gym. I was like, "What are you doing, man? The school's closed. You better be lucky the school board don't fire you in the process." And as he kept running the laps, the gym coach said was, "Hit the showers." But then that was where things went from bad to worse for the gym coach. I'll let you, the gym teacher, but that was where things started exploding in the locker room. And more importantly, that was where a few jump ropes grabbed him and brought him. Oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about what happened here. It was brutal. Only thing I could say is Freddy made his move and took out the gym coach, but then it was revealed after all the steam was cleared, Jesse had Freddy's glove on and screamed, but then that was where he was brought home by the police. And that was where the father was concerned, but the mother thought he was crazy. But after he left, that was where they talked about the whole ordeal about Freddy and Nancy's diary. Then we cut to the school, most precisely. Yeah, I was correct. That was where, sorry folks, my mind's a little mixed up tonight. Anyways, we cut to the school where they realized the gym coach was taken out by someone in the middle of the night. And they said they found boot marks everywhere. But then the next night, Jesse heard something as he left his room. But when he opened the door, he saw what looked like to be his sister jump roping and singing Freddy's song. But she was by herself with the jump rope. Then the following morning, Jesse and his father and the family confronted each other about the situation about the house. But he kept claiming there's nothing wrong with this house. But then the toaster was on fire. And that's when he said good Lord, and put out the fire. But throughout the film, it was where the story of the boiler room took place. And that was where Jesse and his girlfriend drove to the old power plant of Springwood. And she said that Freddy worked there. And showed him the newspaper articles on Freddy and everything else. But as they looked around the whole place, it looked completely abandoned. They heard something, but when they opened up the doors, it was nothing but a little rat. That scared them. But that was when, the next night, we cut to a POV, which is a point of view of what looked like to be Freddy, walking upstairs, getting to Jesse's sister's room, and the only thing he said was, "Wake up, little girl." But I was like, are these quotes, or is this a different part of the film? But to my amazement, it was shocking enough. But then that was where it led to the whole ordeal, where it was only Jesse. He told his sister "It's late. Go back to sleep." As he tucked his sister in, he found Freddy's glove in his hand, so he tried to stay up all night. Got a cup of coffee, and him and his girlfriend were talking about the situation. But while at the school at the cafeteria, that was where it led to the whole ordeal that she was throwing a party that night at her place. We then cut to the party where it was getting boring at first. Like, we hear regular melody music, the dad was cooking, everyone was trying to have a good time, but the dad stopped the kid from having a cannonball. But as soon as the parents of Jesse's girlfriend went upstairs, they went back to the house to get some sleep, that was where it boiled down to the whole ordeal. Jesse was panicking, he was scared of what Freddy was doing to him, and I don't want to talk about what happened throughout this scene, but only thing I could say is after the parents called it a night, the kids partied on. Then that's where we cut to Jesse at his best friend's place trying to get help, and most of all, to make sure that someone can keep an eye on him. And he was panicking, saying that something was inside of him, which is obviously Freddy playing more mental mind games and trying to control Jesse. I'm like, well, I didn't see that coming. But anyways, throughout the scene, later on, Jesse's girlfriend was getting concerned, but then that was when back to Jesse's best friend's house. He was trying to watch TV and keep an eye on Jesse. After he turned off the TV and went back to sleep, Jesse woke up in panic. And then Freddy came right out. But his best friend was pounding on the door, getting help from his dad. But once again, no quotes. I'm like, what the heck am I seeing here? What happened to the Freddy Krueger I knew? With the best quotes I've ever seen in some of the greatest films I thought I'd never see, but more likely the best films I would see, but anyways. By the time it got straight to the point, Freddy took out Jesse's best friend. But like I said, I don't want to point out the details on what happened, because like I said, rules are rules. But anyways, that's when it boiled down to where Freddy was in the mirror and Jesse had the glove on again and realized Freddy took out Jesse's best friend. And he threw Freddy's glove in the mirror. And realized the police have arrived. He escaped and made it back to his girlfriend's party. Well, back at the party, everyone was having a good time. Jesse came in and they were talking about the whole ordeal, like pointed out in the first film with Nancy. But then that was where it was happening again.
everything at the party was blowing up. Pool was on fire, the pool was boiling up, and then the drinks were exploding, and the hot dogs were popping. And when I saw them, they were popping like firecrackers. I was really stunned. But then, that's when Freddy popped up. He tried taking out Jesse's girlfriend, but to no avail, but Jesse was trying to fight within Freddy, but that was where Freddy realized if he stuck around, things would have gotten worse, but he jumped out the glass door. Everyone was wondering, what's going on? Is everyone okay? And then Freddy came out and was taking out everyone in sight. Kids tried to escape, but the gates were on fire. Well, they were too hot to try to get out. Mostly everyone was taken out of... Some were taken out of sight, some were panicking, but Jesse's girlfriend's dad came down and realized what the heck is going on. And then that's where the fight broke out. But however, one of the kids tried to persuade Freddy that everything was going to be okay. And what he wanted, and he said he was here to help, and that's when he said was, I don't want to say it, but no. That was when Freddy took him out and tossed him near the grill and the fire, sent the message. But the only thing he said to everyone is, "You're all my children now." And by the time Freddy sent the message, Jesse's girlfriend's dad came out shooting with a shotgun, but missed. And then Jesse's girlfriend came out and stopped him. So Freddy left, and the wall was on fire, and that was where he asked, "Where'd he go?" But Jesse's girlfriend knew where Freddy was going, back to the boiler room at the old power plant in Springwood. But that was where, oh boy, it was crazy at first to see two dogs, but it looked like, when I looked at them, it was like the other characters that were turned into dogs after Freddy took them out. I'm like, what the heck? What is this, Ghostbusters? But I was stunned at first, but overall, Freddy still played his mind games with the girlfriend as she looked around trying to find Jesse. More likely Freddy. Freddy popped up. He tried to take out Jesse's girlfriend, but still, Jesse had the power, and the more Jesse kept fighting Freddy, shades of Halloween 2, Freddy burnt to a crisp. Jesse was okay, but survived, which he became the final boy at the end of the film. Then that's where we cut to the final scene of the film. The bus driver pulled up, Jesse was okay, and him and his girlfriend were realizing finally it's over, but they were like, let's not talk about it. She was like, okay. Then the bus was going too fast, way too fast. And the driver looked back at Jesse like, what are you talking about, kid? Everything's okay. He apologized about everything, but that was where Jesse's girlfriend's friend said was, it's over. It's all over. But in typical Freddy fashion, his hand popped out, leaving the final scare, which at the end of the film, they headed straight for the desert, just like at the beginning of the film, which ended off the film as we fade to black. Well, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Nightmare. More likely, Freddy's Revenge. Well, if you guys want me to do a review on the TV series of A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Nightmares, I'll be more than glad to do that. Please let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to do that as soon as possible. But anyways, overall, this film, I was very stunned about to see how far A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge would go. But the story didn't make sense a little bit, but we did get preferences of Nancy Thompson in the film, only in her diary. of what she had to go through from the first film, but they really talked a lot about what happened in the first film, which I think was still pretty good, and overall still had a bit of good preferences, but hey, it's Freddy Krueger. You don't know what to expect in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So overall, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, I think gets a solid, I would say, a 9.5 out of 10. So yeah, it's really good and all, but kind of a little different, but it's really good. But if you guys really want to check out the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I highly recommend for Halloween season. It's even right around spooky season. And of course, the Halloween franchises. And the Friday the 13th franchise. Well, that about wraps it up for this edition of A Halloween Nightmare on Friday the 13th. I want to thank you all so much for watching this next episode. If you guys want to support the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, so you guys do not miss amazing more content like this. So once again, I want to thank you all so much for watching. And be sure to tell my friends I said, "What's up?"